We're doing a different type of stream today. It's something that I found very interesting. I wanted to discuss. I don't usually talk about Marvel or DC ever, but I've found this very interesting, so I decided to speak about it. So, in 2013, Man of Steel came out. That was the first Superman film in 8 years after Superman Returns, which was supposed to be this requel to Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve. And I liked it. I only saw it once, and I saw it a couple of more times several years later. But I thought, it was a seemingly promising origin story for the character. And then instead of just doing a Man of Steel 2 or a direct sequel, they decide to make this crossover film that is, according to Snyder, who was the person behind these films, Man of Steel 2, but in a way, so not actually Man of Steel 2, but continuing the story of Man of Steel. When I saw that, I thought it was all right. I didn't like it as much as Man of Steel because I thought it had just. There's always this thing with films where they stick a bunch of characters in it, and usually the ones with less characters I find more appealing because in a span of 2 or 3 hours, it's very difficult to give a bunch of different characters something to do that is satisfactory for a viewer. But, I thought it was okay. And it was only when I was watching that did I realize that DC was really jealous of Marvel. So, because they saw that Marvel was able to put out these little solo films and then have an Avengers film after that, so the solo films develop most of the individual Avengers, and then the film is them coming together, and then you're rooting for each character because they've all had time to develop in other films. And DC's way of doing that was to say, no, screw doing solo films before the big team up movie. We'll do a Superman film, this like weird crossover, and then we'll do a Justice League film. Most writers can't juggle more than 4 characters. Well, they always make the mistake of having, like, you can have a bunch of characters in one movie, but you have to find a way of making their arcs or just purpose play out together. Like, Infinity War has a bunch of characters, but the film is aided by the fact that it had films before that which developed those characters. And a lot of them are in these different ensemble groups. So they usually get to bounce off of each other and you get to see their personality with different ones. Like, the dynamics were already set in motion by pretty much every character in that film appearing in 2 or 3 movies before that. And I'm saying that's something the DCEU really screwed itself over with. But look, so they do this Justice League film. I didn't see it. I still haven't seen it. I didn't see it for a couple of reasons. One, because people told me it was bad, and I believe them more so with this because, again, the problem I had with Batman versus Superman was that there were too many characters, at least that weren't used as much as I thought they should have been, even if I thought the film was enjoyable. So I figured if they couldn't even get 3 superheroes correct, the big 3 of the Trinity, there was no way they were going to be able to juggle 6 and Steppenwolf, which was the villain of the Justice League film, from what I remember. So I ignored that film. I saw Wonder Woman, thought it was great. I had probably an admitted bias towards that because Wonder Woman, along with Thor, was one of 2 characters that throughout the early 2000s, we just kept hearing we're going to get films. Like, it was development hell for over a decade where one person would write a script, then they would start talking about getting a director, and then you wouldn't hear anything about it for another year, and then a new script, and it went on. And that's why it's really disturbing to think that they wrote the script for a Wonder Woman film back in '96, and it took 21 years for that to be released. Oh, that was really pathetic. Like, just the fact that Deadpool got a film before Wonder Woman that's a big slap in the face for DC. No, you're talking about the Snyder Cut. I was going to get into that. But look, so they put out Aquaman. I didn't see that either. Again, I heard very bad things about it. they put out Wonder Woman 84, which is the first sequel to a standalone film, and they like apparently shelved any plans to make a second Justice League. I didn't see 84. I've heard bad things about it. But again, I literally have heard bad things about every film in this franchise up to this point. But look, so you end up having this this kind of like poor man's version of the MCU, but at the very least, it seems like they're trying. You know, like they're charting a course or whatever. You know, they put out, what was it, Birds of Prey, and people were speaking positively about that, and Shazam as well. Again, I haven't seen either of those either. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I asked this person if they liked Man of Steel, because this channel did a video where they were like speaking disparagingly of it. Shazam wasn't. Yeah, I didn't really hear too many bad things about Shazam. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. The only ones I've seen are Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, and yeah, that's it. Those 3. But look, I'm saying that I was asking this person if they liked Man of Steel, and for whatever reason, whenever you try to ask somebody if they like a movie, like that's part of an ongoing series or something, it's never just about that film. So instead of answering if they liked Man of Steel, they start talking about Henry Cavill, which is the actor that plays Superman, and how he's apparently been recast, and that they're going to make a rebooted Superman where he's African American or black, and he's played by Michael B. Jordan. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, okay, that's very weird, but also, God, if he had just answered the question about if he likes this film from 8 years ago, you know, none of this would be happening. But this was really entertaining to me, because when we first started hearing about the Batman, which is the new Batman film that's going to come out with what's his name from Twilight playing Batman, the craziest casting I've ever seen. So with that coming out, I was really confused about Ben Affleck and just where this film fit into the DCEU, which already had some continuity issues that people had pointed out. And from the way it looks, apparently they're not going to do another Justice League film, and they're going to reboot Batman and Superman again. So now they're taking their again, poor man's version of the MCU, in my opinion, and like fracturing it even more. And then we found out the first Flash film is apparently going to be Flashpoint, which is supposed to be this big crossover event, and it's got Supergirl in it, and like it was, I was so confused. Because Flash is another character where, again, waiting for this extraneous period of time for him to get a film, which was mitigated a little bit by him having that show. I thought whatever, but instead of just doing a film where it's like, whether it's an origin story, he just fights some villain, whatever. No, we have to have this big weird crossover. And they can't just call the movie Flashpoint. They have to title it Flash and then use it as a, I guess, excuse to reboot their own continuity. Ben is done with the DC. With DC, they jerked him around too much. I feel kind of bad for him, because I really think, like, I love the Dark Knight trilogy, but that the voice lady, that I thought that was awful. And at least with Affleck, he looked the part, he sounded the part, and they just screwed him up. They should recast Flash while they're at it. But you get what I'm saying? Like, what is going on? Like, you had this universe you were apparently making, and now you're taking two of the main 3 heroes and recasting them for these supposed reboots. Again, I say supposed reboots because we don't know if the Batman is set in the same continuity. We don't even know if that Superman reboot is actually a thing or just people talking crap. But it's really weird. Like, you're going to have this connected universe while rebooting the characters that are already part of the connected universe. Ben Affleck ruined Batman's character. Was it Ben Affleck's fault or the writers? They're on drugs. Hey, remember that Green Lantern movie we were supposed to get last year? So there was a garbage, horrible, awful abomination of a Green Lantern film that came out 10 years ago where Ryan Reynolds played him, the guy that plays Deadpool. And they said, oh, we're going to do a reboot, and it's going to focus on him and this other character. It's going to be called Green Lantern Corps. It's coming out in 2020. And then 2020 came and went, and there was no movie. And they left Green Lantern out of the Justice League. Like, what is that? I guarantee Ben Affleck didn't say, hey, I need to shoot people as Batman. Yeah, I don't know what non-binary means by the actor who played Batman ruined his character. Imagine Ben Affleck on set. No, I'm going to have Batman murder people. Like he was the true villain that caused that writing shift. That swift change in direction from the actor. The original only wanted to weaken Superman, not beat him to death and stab him with the kryptonite spear. Yeah, but how did the actor ruin the character? Because you said Ben Affleck. Now, if you said Zack Snyder or whoever wrote Batman v Superman, I would understand. But you're saying the actor ruined the character. People were saying the same thing about Cavill. They're like, "Oh, Superman doesn't kill anybody. How could they do this?" Oh yeah, you definitely should have phrased that differently. Because that had me really confused. Like, are we really about to say that the actor is the reason? Because again, I thought he did a good job with what he was given. No, this is the weirdest cinematic universe I've ever seen. Sorry, this person sent me a message. I'm responding to it. The only other cinematic universe I can think of that's this weird is that dark universe that was supposed to start with The Mummy with Tom Cruise, and then it got ruined, or it didn't do as well as they hoped it would, so they just canceled like remaking all those other classic films. DC was trying to push too much too soon. They wanted to do Death of Superman and Batman vs Superman in one. Yeah, that was really. I think what they should have done was just have Man of Steel and then do a sequel to that, and then do a Batman film, a Wonder Woman film, and then do probably Flash or some other character. I don't know why they did that. This weird crossover. Can we get? I've never seen this person before. Apparently that's too much to ask for, Morpheus. The script had Batman kill several people, which goes against his comic book portrayal. I mean, hey, we know that people don't care about comic book portrayals. It's like, remember when Spider-Man was Iron Man's sidekick? Oh, that's the worst. I swear, sometimes I really think, because Marvel in the 90s when they were going bankrupt sold the rights to Spider-Man to, what was it, Sony, and then they sold the rights to X-Men to some other studio. I really think they hurt themselves by doing that. Like that, in the long run, that has come to harm, and that's why we don't have another Hulk movie. We haven't had a Hulk movie in 12 years, 13, because the rights are at Universal. Non-binary is writing this in my comment section like I don't know that. If anything, it would be Iron Man being Spider-Man's sidekick, because Spider-Man was much more of a well-known hero. Well, also the fact that he became a hero before Iron Man was. Like, the only heroes in the comics that were around before Spider-Man, again in Marvel, were the Fantastic Four, Hulk, and Captain America. No, the only reason they did that was because of the fact that they tried twice to get the other film versions of Spider-Man in the MCU, and then Sony kept on being clowns. So they just kept until Amazing Spider-Man 2 performed so awful that they decided to sit down and talk with Marvel. And even then, they could have just gotten one of the actors from the other from those two past iterations to come into the MCU. How they did Hulk and Endgame pissed me off. This is why I started reading comics in 2019. Well, again, they're not allowed, apparently, because of rights issues with Universal, to make a standalone Hulk movie. So everything that his character does is in somebody else's story where he's sharing the screen with like 5 or 6 or 7 other different characters. It's like in Infinity War, Hulk won't come out. I don't know what's happened to him. Why won't he help me? And in the next film, oh, it's been solved. Now we're the same thing off screen. Thanks, time skip. No, out of all the MCU characters, that one just like we have a solo Hulk film where he's played by a different actor, and then all the films after that he's played by an actor that I think does a better job, but gets less screen time by courtesy of it being films that aren't about Hulk by himself. Magneto was around in Scarlet Witch, but no X-Men. No, again, that's because again, film right issues. The only reason Marvel was able to use Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and Age of Ultron is because they made an agreement with what is that, Fox, where they can use those two, but they can't say anything about the X-Men, which includes Magneto because Magneto is branded under X-Men, and Fox can use Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but they can't make mention of them being Avengers. So they literally can't use Magneto because they don't have the rights to him. Well, now they do, but they already established their version of it. Oh, by the way, apparently, if Marvel does, if the MCU does have X-Men in it, they're not going to call it X-Men. They're just going to say mutants. Go look it up. That they're not going to actually call them X-Men. They're going to say the film will be titled Mutants. Oh my god. After a garbage movie like Dark Phoenix, they can't even say their own name anymore. Imagine if they did a Fantastic Four film where it's called like four people that don't always get along or something. Yeah, it's very lame. Oh my god. No, this is the DCEU. Just to get back to that, like they're really destroying themselves before. Like they did one Justice League film and it didn't perform as well as they wanted to. So like, oh no, we're not going to do any more of those. We're going to give people this 4-hour film years later. Dark Phoenix gave me a headache. What a way to go out. I remember one guy said Dark Phoenix and Captain Marvel were competing for who's worse. Who can be the worst superhero film of 2019? They're battling it out. Yeah, I didn't bother feeling too bad that Fox lost the rights. Although now I feel a little bad because if they can't even call the X-Men X-Men, what's the point? That's just such a weird thing to not even be able to say the group's name. It's ironic that Dark Phoenix gave you a headache because apparently when you're a telepath, all you do is get headaches. You're like probing somebody's mind. Ugh! No, we are never getting Man of Steel 2 now. The only MCU movie I enjoyed was Civil War. Are you serious? So out of over 20 films, you only thought one of them was good? Man. that's a really brazen statement to make about that many movies. This is why I say if there is any character you like, go to comic book and look at their. Oh, I've done that. I read like in the past 3 months, I read over four. And if you think I'm joking, that website has it. Oh, no, you know what? I can't even. I still couldn't prove it because if you click on it, it automatically says you read it. But Morpheus, I read over 400 issues of Amazing Spider-Man in the last 3 months. It was nice to see Spider-Man again instead of Iron Boy Jr. Well, non-binary. If like when you say you only liked or enjoyed, rather, I mean, there's a lot of things I enjoy but don't like. Like I know a lot of people that enjoy Batman and Robin, but still don't think it's good. It's like out of over 20 films, the only one you liked was Civil War. Because I've seen some people say Infinity War is a masterpiece, and then say that Endgame was like whatever or it was okay. So that's hard to believe. Like I either don't you either in my view didn't see all of them or have seen few of them. It's just hard for me to fathom the idea that you saw all these different films and like that was and only one of them was any good. Well, that's my point. Like when you say you liked one, we can infer that you did not like the other ones. But again, because it's over 20 other films, we don't know which ones you liked or didn't like or thought were okay or thought were outright bad. That's like if I came on here and I said, I think the DCEU is subpar, with the exception of Man of Steel, which I really liked. Well, okay, but what are your exact opinions? Are all 8 of these other films all subpar? Do you think some are okay or some are just awful? That's what happens when you make these like little statements about just a whole bunch of films. Just leave somebody in the dark. Damn, and the crazy thing is I found a website where you can read. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. That's why I stopped being like sympathetic to people who say they like can't afford comics or whatever because they're all online for free. Like literally everything is online for free. Every movie you can think of, all of it. Just there's always some backwater website where somebody's posted it. I just enjoyed the interpersonal conflict of Civil War. The other movies are good in their own ways. If you say so. No, there's so much stuff available online for free. And sometimes I don't even feel bad about looking at any of it because, just as an example, on Disney Plus, they don't have Spider-Man Homecoming or Far From Home. And I was thinking to myself, if I want to watch all of the MCU, I can't even watch it if I get it legally. Like if I have the legal streaming service of the company that makes these films, I can't watch so there's some of them I can't watch. Hulk isn't on there either. The 2008 one, which is part of not 2008. The Wait, yeah, it is 2008. So the 2008 one or the 2003 one. So that's what 4 films that I would have to go online to see, even if I legally obtain them from the company that owns Marvel, on their streaming service. Now I did a whole list of all the stuff that Disney Plus was missing. It's like, how do you buy a company and there's like 10 or 15 different films they made that you still don't have the rights to or don't own? Like on Disney Plus, they have X-Men and X-Men 2 from Fox, but they don't have X-Men 3, which is really insane. Like, how do you have the first 2 but not the third one? But look, Dio, whether you think the film is trash or not, the point I'm making is if you want to watch this legally and you have the streaming service of the company that bought Marvel and you still aren't able to watch these things when using the streaming service of the company that bought Marvel, you shouldn't really feel that bad or be surprised when people go and watch stuff for free on the computer. Like, that wasn't even me giving my opinion about the quality of those films. It was me saying that as someone who owns their service, they should be on there. Talking about Ed Norton and Ang Lee Hulk is trash. When did I come on here and say Hulk 2003 or Hulk 2008 is great? I'd like to see somebody play that clip. I have never spoke highly or really at all about either of those two films because I don't even remember seeing either one of them. That's how long it's been. I actually have an app where I can read Marvel comics for free, so I don't take people seriously when they say they can't afford comic book. Yeah. Listen, if somebody wants to do something, they can do it. Or they'll do it. They'll make time for it. Like one guy was like, "You really expect me to read hundreds of issues?" It's like, no, you read them over a course of time. Like it took me 3 months to read most of the first volume of Amazing Spider-Man, but you read 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 issues a day, and you get through it. Again, anytime somebody wants to do something, they'll find time for it. That was funny how this one guy said that his favorite MCU film is the first Iron Man because you can watch it without having to see 20 other movies to know what's going on. That is the problem with the MCU after the first phase, where like before it was just a handful of films you had to see, like you would see Avengers, for example. Now it's if you want to see Infinity War, we'll make sure you know who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. You have to see their 2 films, and if you want to know who Iron Man is, make sure to see his 3 films, and then make sure to see the other 2 Avengers films for it. Jesus Christ! And if you want to know why the Avengers are broken up, make sure to see a 3rd Captain America. I'm sorry, I still have PTSD from the Hulk movies. Well, I didn't make them, so you shouldn't be taking it out on me. Don't use me as the avatar for the Hulk film directors. Like I'm not the person that did that. Yeah, I didn't make any of those, so I should be exempt from getting attacked over them. No, it was funny. People are making videos about the MCU has peaked, and I kind of agree with them. I mean, like we're not going to get Iron Man 4 for obvious reasons. They kind of just very quickly threw Captain America to the wayside with the time heist crap. I don't even want to get into Thor. Like yeah, so I kind of agree with people that outside of Spider-Man, it is kind of it pretty much finished. I honestly wish they would have just stuck with the original. Yes, yes. But listen, non-binary. They wanted to. So let me go through this really quickly because a lot of people don't know this. There's a deleted scene from the original Iron Man's post-credit scene where with Nick Fury, where he's sitting in the house and he's like, "You think you're the only superhero in town," or something like that, and he mentions radioactive bug bites, and that was supposed to be a reference to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man because Iron Man came out the year after Spider-Man 3. The director for the Incredible Hulk film wanted Maguire as Peter Parker to cameo in the movie, which they weren't able to do. So there were multiple attempts to get that version of Spider-Man in there. But again, because Sony is run by clowns and fools, they couldn't settle on whatever the agreement was, so it fell through. Yeah, Morpheus, I agree. I wish they would. Hey, you leave her alone, Dio. I'll take her any day over Brie Larson. Anyways, let me see what was. Yeah, so non-binary. I just want to clarify. They did try to get early on the version of Spider-Man from the Sam Raimi films and into the MCU, but again, because at the time the characters' rights were owned by Sony, they weren't able to make an agreement. And then Sony acted like a complete clown when they made Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I said is not even a film. That is a trailer for 9 other movies. But yeah, you're not alone in wanting him back. I wish we could have just stuck with that one, but whatever. We can only have Wolverine for 17 years, played by the same person. Every other character is exempt. The problem with the first Hulk movie is there was way too much talking, and the second one was good. Yeah, I remember the second one being decent. I don't know what Dio was talking about, but whatever. I mean, Morpheus, when you come online, everybody has a problem with something or everything else. So, that's how you can expect the internet to be. They're like, if you like something, you come online, look hard enough, there will be somebody that has a problem with it. Oh my God, her comics are trash. When she went solo from the 70s, are you talking about Carol Danvers? All the way to the 2000s, she was good, and when 2012 hit is when she got that short hair and the oh yeah, you are talking about about Captain Marvel. I wish they would have just kept her as Miss Marvel. I don't know why they decided to do that. See, you should have said like her name in there somewhere because when I'm speaking, there's a tendency to switch over to another topic really quickly. So that ends up making it more confusing. Well, I just like Edward Norton as an actor, so I'm biased in his favor. No, rest in peace, the DC Extended Universe. We had a couple of decent films, and then a bunch of reboots. And then with the Batman, they have a black actor playing Commissioner Gordon. They have a black actress playing Catwoman. It's just crazy. And Midnight's Edge did a video where they said that apparently, uh, what's his name? The guy, the vampire that plays Batman. So him and the actress that plays Catwoman apparently were banging on the on the Batmobile during filming. I don't even usually like to say that kind of stuff in a video because I don't have proof of it. Like I don't like to make it seem as if I'm being slanderous or salacious, but I wouldn't be surprised. Speaking of Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan is coming to get ready for that. Just a fangirl of Carol, shaking my head. She does not sell. Yeah, I don't know why they're using that character. But then again, this is by the same company that thought instead of making a Black Widow film and having that be the first solo MCU film, we're gonna have this random space broad played by an annoying lady as the pioneer of female-led films in the MCU. What a brilliant idea that was. Dude, the Black Widow film really did feel like what's a good way of saying it? Like I remember when they were talking about that before Avengers came out. It's like it took them 10 years to make this, really? Jesus. No, non-binary. I'm all about Toby. See, I didn't use punctuation. It's all right. This isn't an English class. You're not going to get in trouble for grammatical errors. They're using her because the character they created when Disney bought Marvel. Oh yeah, they've been sticking a lot of recent stuff into the films. Again, that's one of the reasons I'm upset that we weren't able to keep the Raimi films in continuity with the MCU because imagine because Norman Osborn becomes Iron Patriot. Imagine William Defoe's Norman Osborn as Iron Patriot. That would be so cool. Like he comes back and is like this heroic figure wearing this armor, and oh my god, we could really have had the Dark Avengers, but nope. Everything got screwed up. We have to wait until they finally introduce another version of Norman in like 10 years or something. Scarlet Witch is way better character than Carol. WandaVision just made her better. No, WandaVision's the only thing that really allowed her to stand on her own. Like everything she's in, it's got 7 or 8 other characters. Her and Hulk have the same problem, except she has it in reverse, where Hulk got to have one film to himself, again played by a different actor, and then everything else that focuses on him has the problem of juggling him and these other characters. And in her case, she was always in the background because, again, films with other characters in lead roles, and then only with WandaVision did they actually focus on her. Yeah, Olsen did a really good job. Oh, non-binary, they're goofy. I don't take them seriously. As if Spider-Man and Peter Parker are two different people. They usually just criticize him for not cracking that many jokes, but that's not really a problem of the actor and more so an issue with the writing. No, they're goofy. I'll take a Spider-Man that doesn't crack many jokes over a Spider-Man that's under the wing of some other superhero. I'll take a non-joking Spider-Man over Iron Boy. That's why when Homecoming came out, there were people who were calling that Iron Man 4. No, I'm done with them. But yeah, non-binary. I hope you liked my little trivia section. Oh, also, I forgot to mention this. For the first Iron Man, they were going to mention that Tony Stark made the tentacles that Doc Ock had in Spider-Man 2. Again, this is back when they were trying to make it all connected before, the dark ages we are in now. So there's a lot of little stuff that happened to set those two up. Yeah, but when Tobey Maguire did crack a joke, the jokes actually had to make sense in the context and was actually pretty funny. Well, that's kind of the thing with the MCU films, that they have a lot of humor in them, and that with each respective viewing, it becomes less funny. Like that's one of the reasons a lot of people like Infinity War, because it has this like dramatic stakes to it that resonates with each viewing, and there's stuff that you didn't catch in a prior viewing that you might see later on. I know one thing is in Thor: Love and Thunder, they better not make Gore the God Butcher just a one and done villain. I don't think so, because they haven't, from what I recall in recent MCU films, been really killing off the antagonist that much. I can see you're not excited for Thor 4. Too many lame jokes make him lame. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think it's sad that the MCU has peaked. Let's see what else I have here. Make sure I read everything everybody wrote. No, all I heard was bad stuff about Justice League. That's why I stayed away. Tom Holland made the lamest jokes at the worst of times. Like, dude, you're in the middle of a fight. Shut up and fight. Remember how he's supposed to be the superhero that believes with great power comes great responsibility, but then he breaks this store owner's shop and then, like, nothing, just whatever. Whole shop gets damaged. He doesn't feel anything for him. Not bad at all. And then they turn. So you know that Ned character, right? The one that he's like, I'm talking about, the one that knows his identity and is his best friend or whatever. They took a character who in the comics is his first romantic rival, and then becomes Hobgoblin until it's retconned that he was brainwashed and made him his best friend. Like, it's just so weird to me. Like, if you actually have read Spider-Man comics, at least the earlier ones that have Ned in them, you'll know why that's a really weird. Just that character is just there. It's so crazy. I think Love and Thunder is going to be like Iron Man 3. Well, we haven't seen anything yet, so I'm cautiously optimistic. That's what kills me. We don't even get to see like a trailer and before we go, this film's gonna be awful, it's terrible. Because I remember when Spider-Man 4 got canceled, we were like, yeah, I don't want to see the Vulture as the villain. I don't want to see Black Cat. Good. It's like, damn, we don't even know what they were gonna do outside of those like really, because you can have a villain that people find interesting and still screw it up. So we didn't even know what they were gonna do outside of who the villains were, and that's enough for you to just rejoice. People are so quick to just say something is going to be bad or is bad. And again, that makes sense if it's like a franchise. Like if the last Thor film was trash, I would get why people thought it was, thought the new one was going to be even worse or just as bad. But from what I recall, Thor Ragnarok was considered not only the best Thor film, but one of the best MCU films. So I don't really get where there's this like hinged opposition before anything even comes out. Hell, be glad you're even getting the Thor 4. We're not going to get a Captain America 4 or an Iron Man 4. Thor's going to be the first Marvel hero that gets a fourth installment without a reboot. So, I guess be glad for that. And that's crazy. The only other character that had that, the only other two characters are Superman 4 and then Batman and Robin. Those are the other fourth installments. Those franchise killers. Dude, Batman and Robin is literally the reason Robin isn't in any movies after that. When Kevin Feige said he was going to focus on diversity, that has me worried about Marvel. See, I don't even really believe too much in that because I think with him, he realized that a lot of the actors that play the lead characters like Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and whatnot all want to move on to other stuff. So without the big guns that have carried the franchise since it started, they have to pick up the B team and they're like trying to hide behind, oh no, these are more diverse characters. So I think it's less so them genuinely wanting to just push diversity and more so being like, well, we got to scrape together something for this fourth phase. Not to mention Tom Holland's Spider-Man seemed to just win fights completely unscathed. I like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man fight scenes because there was a sense that Spider-Man was in danger. Yeah, I was watching the third one with my brother 2 weeks ago, and he thought because he knew it was the last one before they did the reboot, he thought Spider-Man was going to die when he was getting smashed by Sandman and Venom was holding him down. And he had his hand out like that. Oh, I didn't even start. That's nothing that's why I don't like the Amazing Spider-Man. Like I like the first one, but not the second one. But I don't like those regardless as much as the Raimi films because Jameson is not in them because they realized that apparently they couldn't get an actor that was as good as J.K. Simmons. So they just wrote out the character, which really pisses me off because Jameson's responsible for Scorpion, Mac Gargan becoming a thing. He is behind the Spider Slayers. He's just a very interesting character that they could easily have do different things for 10 films if they wanted to. But that's one of the things that irritates me. So when Dio said Mac Gargan, I was like, oh yeah. Well, hell, he later became Venom, so I guess that wasn't too bad of a version. I would love if they did like a hybrid film where it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man versus like Tom Hardy's Venom. I would love that. Shrek 4. Yeah, people were talking trash about that too. I remember. Now I remember the wait for Spider-Man 4. We found out the year before it was supposed to come out in January that they were rebooting it. I was so angry. Hey, we know that film. You know that film that you waited for the last 2 years for? It's supposed to come out next year. Yeah, never mind. No, that was extreme trolling. Like I said, I wouldn't have been as upset about a reboot if they had just announced it right after 3 came out, but there was a 2 year gap of just anticipation for a fourth one, and then when Amazing Spider-Man came out, everybody said, "Oh my God, this is so much better! It's like it's like so accurate and blah, 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 blah." And then 2 years later, when the second one came out, and then people go to see it, and that's when Sony scrapped all their plans, and they sat down with Marvel and talked about their little compromise, BS, and that's how we got Holland. But I bring up Amazing because when that came out, people did the same thing that they do to Holland, where they try to say, "Oh my God, this new one is so much better." Even in the first Spider-Man film, Green Goblin gave me that sense of was done. I actually thought Spider-Man was going to die. Yeah, every movie except the second one, and even with the second one, when he was tied up at Harry's house, I mean, Harry was about to stab him if he didn't pull off his mask, and be recoiled so much when he saw him. So every film he was in danger. No, there's a reason that Spider-Man and X-Men are the only characters that have their own franchises outside the MCU. Like, what's going to happen now is that as they've been pulled into the MCU, people are going to try to pretend that the older films were so horrible. But again, Spider-Man 3, for all the little nasty stuff people say about online, still managed to beat out the sales of every single Spider-Man film up until the last one. So until Far From Home came out, it sold more than all the other ones. I still can't get over that. That was the most expensive movie ever made when it was released. That was crazy. And they put the money to good use, in my opinion, given how well it sold. No, the problem with that series is they rebooted every couple of films. So there's like certain villains we're never going to see. Like, you're never going to see Hobgoblin. You'll probably never see Carnage in anything besides that Venom film that we still don't have a trailer to, even though it's supposed to come out in 3 months. You're never going to see Morbius. Again, in a Spider-Man film, you're not going to see Kraven. What's the other one? Jack-o'-lantern? Demogoblin? None of them. And people get mad at that because they think spider sense are supposed to allow him to dodge everything. Hey, non-binary, there's this one issue where there's this whole story about Aunt May and Doc Ock, like her thinking that he's a good guy that just is misjudged by the police. And there's this one issue where Spider-Man comes into Doc Ock's lair or his hideout in some other country. Well, I mean, Morpheus, come on, they had Carnage in the '90s show, which was for TVY7, so they can find a way to stick him in something that's not that's not rated R if they wanted to. But anyways, I was saying that there's this one issue where he comes into Doc Ock's lair, and then all of a sudden he gets smacked in the back of the head, and he's like, "Why didn't my spider sense warn me? What's gonna happen to me?" And then he faints, and then you see it was Aunt May, and it makes total sense because he trusts her and like she loves him, and she doesn't trigger his spider sense ever, and we know that she doesn't like Spider-Man even though she loves Peter, and we know that she like thinks like it that was great writing. That's one of my favorite scenes in any comic book, where he just gets smacked in the back of the head and he's trying to figure out who's this new fearsome adversary that didn't trigger his spider sense. And then you see her holding the pot. Oh, they don't write stuff like that anymore. That was great. I'm just saying, Morpheus. If people want to, like, if they're actually, same thing with Morpheus. In the show, they had him not suck blood, but instead get plasma as another way of toning him down, but still including him in the cartoon. So if they want to tone down a villain to get that, lower rating, they can do it. So there's a lot of stuff that writers, if they're actually being creative, can succeed in doing. They said, "Oh, hey, we're going to put a voltmeter on Electro because it looks cool." Yeah, I don't know why they did that. I knew Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a S show from reading, but Amazing Spider-Man 2 is kind of like it has a lot of similarities to Iron Man 2, where it's like it's a sequel to a much better film that has this task of setting up a cinematic universe at the same time as it tries to continue the story of the previous film. Oh yeah, you're never. Hell no, you wouldn't see Jackal. You really think people will want to? You really think any of the studio execs at Sony or whoever runs the films would want to have a villain who's obsessed with the love interest that in the MCU hasn't even been introduced yet? So that's already like 3 or 4 films right there that you have to make. Now, what's interesting about Kingpin is that because he was a Spider-Man villain initially, but also has the territory of being a Daredevil villain, he was the only character that the MCU and Sony could use, like independent of each other. He was the one link because of how extensive his history is with Spider-Man and with Daredevil, who Marvel had the rights to. I thought that was really interesting that he was the only character both studios could use and like not have to run anything with. I loved Kingpin, the 90s show. Yeah, you won't see the Smites either. You won't see them. You won't see Prowler. All of them, just cross them off your wish list. I saw this one guy talking about when are they gonna? I hope in the MCU they do a Miles Morales trilogy. It's like Miles doesn't even have any villains. He's literally just Black Spider-Man. That's the whole reason that character exists, to be a younger version of Spider-Man that's black. Let's make 3 films about a character who doesn't even have any villains or is actually known for being anything other than like what story of Miles from the comics does anybody remember? Exactly. And it's like you really think Marvel executives are stupid enough to take out Peter Parker, the moneymaker that they've had for over 50 years, for this replacement Scrappy that nobody even heard of before Spider-Verse came out. Now I remember when that character was, because I used to read Ultimate Spider-Man. I used to have the volumes of the book. It's like they really killed off this version of the character that, even though he's an alternate version of Peter, I grew to love and like and care for, because you read him for over 100 issues and whatnot, and replaced him with a character just for the sake of representation. Oh, you're talking about Spider-Verse? Yeah, that's like universally agreed as being a good film. Now I look forward to a second one of that. But again, that was actually written by people who have some talent. That wasn't like that was actually an attempt to write a good story. Miles, like his whole introduction was literally, let's do something shocking and introduce this character who we only are interested in introducing because he's black, you know, which is funny too, because that wasn't even the first time that Marvel tried to replace Peter Parker. The first time that happened was in the Clone Saga, where Ben Riley and Kane were introduced, and Ben Riley was supposed to take over as Spider-Man, and Peter was supposed to have a happy ending, but they got cold feet and backed out of it. That was back when Marvel was going bankrupt and they were doing anything possible to get people to read their trash. Yeah, non-binary. Pretty much, like you'll be very hard pressed to find people who say Spider-Verse is bad. I'm just saying that before that film came out, nobody knew Miles from anything other than just being the Black Spider-Man. There's no story that he's ever been in where they were like, that was really good and groundbreaking and an excellent tale. Just nothing. And this one guy was like, well, he would have good stories if Marvel would stop canceling his books. Like, he had one book, which was the Ultimate Comics, Ultimate Spider-Man, for 3 years, which is the same length of time that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko made most of the original, like Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. So you can do a lot of things in over 20 issues. Don't let people on here start pretending that you need to be around for 10 years to have a good story, which is how long Miles has been around in the comics and still not had one. Oh, that is terrible. Like, if I was Marvel, I'd be embarrassed. So we really killed off, because Ultimate Spider-Man used to outsell Amazing Spider-Man. Like the alternate younger version of Spider-Man was outselling the original at times. So like we killed off this really well-liked alternate version of this character so that we could make a character that is only different in terms of his ethnicity, who, after being around for a decade, still doesn't have a single thing he's known for besides his costume and a movie. A lot of people like to say that I still think that costume, it's nice, but I mean, Spider-Man costumes in general are cool looking. I just hate the way Spider-Man is being written now. Yeah, there's a lot of Spider-Man stuff I think ever since One More Day, it's just been trash. It's just bad story after bad story. Like, first you retcon the marriage. Then you have the Spider Island thing, which was like all kind of levels of weird. Then you have him switch bodies with Doc Ock for a year. It was I stayed away from that. Like, I read the little stuff he'll post on here, but I don't. Dan Slott is an awful writer. I'm so happy that he's not on Spider-Man anymore. Said get lost. But yeah, rest in peace, DCEU. We hardly knew ye. You had a good Superman film, an all right weird crossover movie, and then like a Justice League film that well, we have all kind of mixed opinions about. I do think Ben Affleck, if given better material, could have been a great Batman. But again, DC screwed itself up because Snyder wanted Dick Grayson as Robin to be deceased. Because again, for whatever reason, ever since Batman and Robin, they have this like weird aversion to using sidekicks in superhero films. At least DC anyway. Like, that's why you're never going to see Supergirl in a Superman movie. You're never going to see Wonder Girl in a Wonder Woman film. You're never going to see Superboy or Supergirl like ever, unless they're in something else with somebody else acting as like an independent character. Like, it's so crazy how they really have this strange aversion to using sidekicks. Oh my god. Like hell, even the not the DCU, the MCU is kind of like that to an extent. Tom Holland has asked in interviews way he thought he was good for the role, and he goes off on his 10-minute rant about how he's a huge Spider-Man fan. I mean, Andrew Garfield said the same thing. Everybody's a fan. They always say they're fans, and then when you fire them, they get quiet. No, when he said I would come back for 10 Spider-Man films, I wanted to vomit. I'm like, great, we're gonna have Iron Boy for another decade, if not longer. Because I think after 6 or 7 movies of like this, like with like of the same character with their name in the title, and then with the numbering system, I think that's a good time to reboot. Like when you have more movies of this prick as Spider-Man than you have of Star Wars films, that's when it's time to throw in the towel. And I'm only talking about the mainline Star Wars films, the 3 trilogies, not the other ones like Rogue One and Solo and the rest of that. But yeah, I'm just saying non-binary. Don't get too choked up about. Was asked why he thought he was a good in the role. Give a logical, concise answer. I just think he's a better actor. But don't get too cynical about people talking trash about Maguire, because, like I said, when Amazing Spider-Man came out, they did the same thing with Garfield, where they held him up as the new Holy Grail and tried to unfavorably compare the older films to him. So like whenever they get around to rebooting the MCU, whether that's in 10 years or 20, you're going to see the exact same thing happen to Holland. They're going to be like, oh, that was Iron Boy. We have this better person playing Spider-Man now. I'm just so sick of reboots. But yeah, every time something's new, it's always great. I remember when Dark Knight Rises came out, I had a guy in my class say it was the best movie ever. You don't see anybody saying that now, do you? Yeah, these movies are just trends that people can hop on. Yeah. Like I guarantee you in 20 years, the only MCU films that people will talk about are maybe like the first Iron Man and then the Avengers films, and that'll pretty much be it. Maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, but very, very few of those are going to have the staying power of prior stuff that's come out. Hell, even with the DCEU, I see people to this day talking about Man of Steel. I see them still talking about Batman v Superman. So there's, even when it looks like there's a lot of people that don't like something, the fact that they still talk about it shows that it meant, because again, that was a very important film. The first time 2 of the oldest superheroes in American culture were ever on screen together. That film will be discussed for many years to come. Don't take it too seriously. These when films are made for money, a lot of times they don't have any kind of heart to them, and that's usually why they don't get remembered that well. Because when Amazing Spider-Man came out, after the first one, they got Sony got drunk with power. They were thinking about doing a third and a fourth one. They want to do a Sinister Six film, a Black Cat film, and in the end, they had an all right first film and a just bottom of the barrel second one that just aborted all of their plans afterward. Oh, that's another film where they did the thing where they make a white character black because they made Electro black. And or I guess blue rather, but he was black first, then he became blue. Yeah, it's really comedic. But anyways, I've talked long enough. I think it's really sad that the DCEU is apparently still going on, but getting rid of Superman and Batman for these like weird reboots. The Batman one isn't as bad as the Superman one, but like I said, I think it's weird to have the vampire from Twilight playing Batman. But again, I'll give it a chance. I'll see it if we even have movie theaters open by then over here. Uh, Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your Monday.